Hi friends, Disha here again. So today I'm going to talk about a very common topic about where the Saturn is placed in your chart. Now when I was doing the palmistry video, there also I explained you need not to fear for the Saturn, whether in your palms or whether we talk about the Lagna chart or any other chart in Jyotish. So this video is about to take the fear out of Saturn planet if you are having any. Now we'll talk about the chart, and this is I'm talking about the Lagna chart. So in the Lagna chart you have to see where the Saturn is placed. Now I'm going to give you some reference point here what I'm going to talk the topic of the video, but I'll give you the reference from where it has been taken. So everybody thinks that Saturn is a planet of sorrow and hardship, though at one point it's not. We cannot deny that, but at the same time I say that it depends on where Saturn is placed in your chart. Once the Saturn is if it is placed good, it gives that kind of success no other planet can give that success to you. So we have to not fear from the Saturn. We have to understand what Saturn wants from us. So that's the only thing we have to understand. Now let's talk about the today's video, but before that I'll say thank you for all your love you have showered me through my channel. I have got many people liked my videos for palmistry. Now I'm literally looking forward for the same love you showered for my Jyotish videos as well. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe and share my channel Your Future with Disha. Now today let's talk about today's topic. As I said, I have taken the topic for Saturn's placement. Now in the chart, in Jyotish we have 12 houses, and these, so maybe you will see the chart here or here somewhere, the chart, the Jyotish chart in a North Indian style, because I read the North Indian style charts. So in that we have the Kendra houses, we have the Jaya houses, so many different type of houses. We have categorized these 12 houses. Today I'm going to talk about first is Kendra houses, and we know in the chart which are the diamond shape. We have 4 Kendra houses, and the second besides the Kendra houses, where there are so much categorizations available. We say Trikona houses. We have divided them into the Earth, Dharma, Kam, Moksha Trikona also, but today I'm not going to talk about these Trikona houses, and not even we'll use the categorization of Dharma, Kama, Moksha. This is a completely different categorization we'll talk, and the detailed is taken from the reference from BPHS, which is called the Bṛhat Parāśara Horā Śāstra, and another one is Saravali. In many scriptures it is written Saravali, Jatak Parijat and Phaladipika. These categorizations are given. So first I have talked about the Kendra houses. Second division is, I call it as a Panaphara houses, and the third one is Apoklima houses. Now these divisions are given on the basis of, like, first the Kendra houses. It depends. We talk about the individuals, the Jatak, the natives, or life, like the early life, the middle life, and the later end of the life. Now we'll talk about the Saturn's placement in these all 3 categories. So in Kendra houses we have 4 houses: 1st, 4, 7 and 10. Now, and you see it's in the diamond shape in the chart. The other categorization is Panaphara houses. So Panaphara houses are, so these are 2, 5, 8, 11. So these placements, these houses majorly depicts our midterm of our life. Now, next categorization is the Apoklima, and Apoklima houses are 3, 6, 9, 12. Now we'll take each one by one and we'll talk about the Saturn, exactly the Saturn's placement if Saturn is placed in these houses. We know, guys, that Saturn is the slowest moving planet and Mercury is the fastest moving planet. So the results depends on the characteristics of a planet. So Saturn's results are sudden and they come fast, and their stay time is less. For the Saturn, on the contrary, the results comes very, very slow, and people need to do a lot of hard work. Your consistency is required to get the results from the Saturn. The persistent nature should be there towards your work, then the Saturns definitely give the results. It's not like happening in a day. So these are the few qualities of Saturn a person, the Saturn planet requires from any native, besides wherever it sits in your chart out of any 12 houses. Now let's talk about the Saturn if Saturn is in your Kendra houses. If Saturn is in your Kendra houses, it shows not very mediocre, and it's average. The results is average, that's I can say. Now when we talk about the Saturn in the first house, people say the person has to be lazy, not consistent, or not to be there on routine, but I found it completely opposite in the charts where I have seen people who worked, who has the Saturn in the first house. They have worked throughout their life. They were very consistent, persistent, and they knew if they are doing the work and doing the job, whether they are in their business or in their job, they kept going till the last day of their life. I know personally those people and I have seen those charts. So they knew, they didn't know the chart, they didn't know anything about Jyotish, but they knew internally that the thing kept keep them going is the work. If they are doing the work, they are keep going. So that's the first house. Then in fourth house, Saturn, the Kendra house, the people think that. So now let's talk about the second Kendra house, that is fourth house. If Saturn is in the second Kendra house, it is being said that people are fearing with this placement, and people say, oh, if Saturn in your fourth house, it is causing a lot of stress, it may create problems with your mom, and it's very difficult to make your own property. There are so many wrong sayings with this placement, but I found it very different. When Saturn sits here, I say the people, they have numerous amount of properties. It can be commercial or residential. They can this placement is even better than the Mars fourth house, because the Mars, which is the karka for the bhumi, for land, that placement does not give you that kind of property. If Saturn sits here, it's the contrary. It's not asking you, the peace of mind is far from you. I did not find that correct. On the contrary, I found this is a good placement if you consistently do your work. The third Kendra house is the seventh. So 1, 4, 7, 10. We talked about 1, 4. Now let's talk about the 7. Seventh Saturn, people are fearing about, oh, your marriage is not going to stay long, or you are at all not going to get married. That's not completely true. I have seen the contrary. Once the native get married, their marriage will stay long. Like it's all for always. It's for all the time. And the people with this, they are loyal, very loyal to their relationship. And so it's not true that the seventh Saturn gives, though it can delay your marriage, That is a possibility, but not for all. I'm saying it's just a possibility, but it gave a long-lasting relationship, loving, caring relationship, very loyal and very, I say, kind people. Like they understand what is the value of relationship in life. Now let's talk about the last Kendra houses, that is the 10th house. 10th house is Saturn's own house, and it's, I say, people say 10th house Saturn means success, though it can be true at some point of time, but this doesn't come in a day. Same way as the 7th placement says a delay in marriage, here we say the delay in your success. That can be a possibility, but it is assurance of your success if you are persistent and consistent, and you are not like you keep doing your work in your job or in your business. It will give you the results. So never ever get disheartened if you have the 10th Saturn. Now with this we covered the Kendra houses. Now let's come to the another categorization. It's called Panaphara houses. In that we talked about the houses comes 2, 5, 8 and 11. In that categorization we say it's your growth period. So these categorization are according to your age, according to your phase of your life. So first phase, the initial phase, the Kendra. The second is your when you are at the growth time for your studies, for your job, for your career, for your relationship. That the second phase is the most crucial phase of anybody's life. So now those of 2, 5, 8, 11. Let's talk about individually when Saturn sits here in 2, 5, 8, 11 houses. As I mentioned in the first categorization that it's a mediocre, it's a average placement. Here the placement, I don't say negative, but it is it can tend towards the negative side if you are not following the Saturn's requirement, if you are not doing what Saturn wants in their life. So if the Saturn in the second house, I say the person may not get the very initial stage any success, or may get little success here, but it's not a denying thing that you are not going to get success. You have to be watchful and do your day-to-day thing. If you are a student, study daily. If you are in job, go to on time. Don't get late at your job, or don't be a latecomer. And then if you are doing your business, do it consistently, persistently. Maybe one day you won't get the customer, but the next day you may get. So if you are not getting, it doesn't mean like you shut down your shop or you shut down your store. So that's the second place, second house Saturn asks you. Now we often use a word second Saturn, second house Saturn, that they are conjuice, like they don't spend money easily. But that can be true at some point of time, but why they do that, why they don't spend their money excessively, because these people may have seen the tough timings in their life, and maybe through their ancestors they have lived that very difficult, very toughest time in their life, and from there they understand the value of money, and that's why they are not spending their money extravagantly, and they are cautious. So that is the second house Saturn. Now two more things I'll talk about: the betrayal and also for the speech. Second house Saturn are often seen with harsh speech. They talk very blunt. So when they do that, they get a very less connected people with them, because people get afraid with their speech because they talk bluntly. They don't shadow their talk. They talk spade to spade, on front, up front, on your face. So people get sometimes scared with their speech. That's the first thing. And another thing is betrayal. Yeah, that's a possibility of second house Saturn. So they have to be cautious, like not easily trust anyone. If you are into relationship or in business, anywhere, don't just blind faith on anyone. Be cautious. Yes, that's the key for the second Saturn. Now let's talk about the fifth house Saturn, the second Panaphara house. Fifth house is our childbirth. Fifth house also talks about our love life. Fifth house also talks about our education. So here Saturn placed, I say it gives us very sharp intelligence, but it can give you the setbacks on emotional level. And with this fifth Saturn, people are very tend to believe, uh, they believe others very easily, and then they get the betrayal from others, and from there the distrust arises. So they have to be cautious with that. Now, fifth house is the house for childbirth, and when Saturn sits here, it is people are already fearing for that. Like they'll get the, especially for the female chart, people get feared that they will get the problem with the childbirth. Though at some point it can be true, we have to see. And in this video, I'm not talking about the three aspects, other aspects of the Saturn, because where Saturn sits, we have the 1, 3, 7, 10 aspects for the Saturn. But if we say from the for the fifth house Saturn, a possibility, but it's not a denial at all. So we should not be much worried about that. And it depends on all other planets. I always say in my videos that the videos we are making, it's just the one thread of your whole fabric. Your fabric is your natal chart, all or your divisional charts. Now the third Panaphara house is here, is the eighth house. Eighth house is the house of death or longevity, whatever you call. Now here people fear with the eighth house Saturn. Eighth house Saturn, definitely when Saturn sits here in Dushtana houses, it gives the long life. It's the life, like people definitely get a good long life, but believe me, it's not an easy life. It's definitely for any native, male or female, it will be a very, I take it as a harsh placement. And the person, it's like really you have to go through such a pressure, because Saturn is pressure. Also here it's that kind of pressure where the diamonds are built, that pressure you can feel at the 8th Saturn. So when you see the 8th Saturn, though they are the long life, but at the end they say, I don't want this long life, I want the happy life, I want the peaceful life. So with this I say yes, it's a difficult placement here. Now let's talk about the last category, in the second category, the last placement at the 11th house. 11th house is the house of gain. I call it the house of manifestation. And when Saturn sits here, people get so, like, they dance like it's the house, they will become billionaire with this placement. But that is not completely true as per my observation, as per my experience. I say Saturn in 8th house, though it gives the good results, but we have the negative sides of also here. Now how it can get negative when it's in the very good house, when you are not obeying the I say if you are not a mature person, if you are not now 8th Saturn, 11th Saturn, we say that oh, it's a good placement, it gives the good results, but not always. So what Saturn requires here to you to be the very ethical person. Please stick with your ethics. Don't do anything wrong, unethical in your life. These placements can give you a very vast network of friends or organizations or communities. So that's a very good placement considered, but don't lose your ethics at all at any point of time in your life. That's the requirement for Saturn in the 11th house. Now we have talked about the second phase per house for all 4 houses. It's now first was the neutral, now second this category it's called to be good, but it can tend to the negative when you are not aligning with the Saturn's qualities. What Saturn requires, you have to be habitual of pressure. Once you know how to deal, how to carry the pressure, how to be persistent, consistent, ethical in your life, then you will get the positive results of these 2, 5, 8, 11. Now let's come to the third category. It's called Apoklima. Apoklima are 3, 6, 9, 12 houses, and then here it shows your the phase of your life, which is the mature phase. You completed your learning, now you are using that learning in your life to get the results. Now if Saturn is placed here in 3, 6, 9 or 12 of any place, then it represents the maturity here, and it also shows the realization and the detachment. And here the wisdom comes. Those wisdoms the person has acquired through experience, through their first phase of life and the second phase. They learned it, they have gone the experiences. With that learning, now they become the learning become the wisdom, the knowledge become the wisdom here, and they use their wisdom to get the benefits out of that, of Saturn's placement. Now first we'll take the third house. Third house is what? Third house is of courage. Third house is your siblings, your neighbors. When Saturn sits here, we consider this as a good, because Saturn likes courageous people. Saturn likes that courage point. So when Saturn sits here, they feel the person is already courageous, and that's the requirement of the Saturn. Now with this placement, Saturn gives them the will, the strength, and also the ability to fight back. And also we should know that success doesn't come in overnight. It requires persistence, consistent efforts, and that efforts requires the will, the strength, and that gives the Saturn in third house. Though they have to be patient, because for them the success doesn't come at the earlier life, it may come little late to them. But if once it comes to them, there is nothing to stop them to get more. So one negative side of this placement is maybe the person is little cold and distant, basically with the siblings, but it can be their core nature, like they can be cold and distant from anyone. So that can be their nature, in like intact nature, so we cannot change it. If anybody understand that, they are very good for relationship. Now let's talk about the Saturn's placement in the sixth house, which is the second house in our categories, in 3 categories. In Apoklima house, the sixth house, and sixth house Saturn is considered to be very good, because sixth house Saturn makes them warrior. This house is a Dushtana house. One of the Dushtana house is the house of Rogue and Shatru. So Saturn sits here, gives them the courage to fight with Rogue, Ren, and Shatru. So with disease, with any kind of adversity, so it's a good placement here. I already talked about the pressure, that the Saturn also represents the pressure point, the pressure in our life. And when Saturn sits here, 6 Saturn, it shows definitely a lot of pressure in anybody's life. And with that pressure, with that hardship, they rise slowly with that pressure. And once they understand how to deal with the pressure, they are unstoppable. They rise like a phoenix from the ashes. So that's the Saturn 6th house. And lots of people, successful people's chart I have seen, they have the Saturn 6th house placement. Now along with that, let's go to the Saturn's 9th house. So 9th house is our religion. Now 9th house is our higher studies. It's a foreign travel. So lots of significations we have for the Saturn's 9th house. Now when this is our 9th house, and 9th house is a house of our bhagya, luck. And when Saturn sits here, again people fear about that, like their bhagya is not going to give them results, or their bhagya is, they are not lucky. But I say that you have to understand those Saturn take test that we see from palmistry, from our Hastrekha Vigyan also. Like we should not fear with anything with Rahu or Ketu or Saturn. We have to see what they require from your life. So 9th Saturn sometimes give person may feel disconnected from their religion, whatever religion you are born. So what I say always, when you are born in a religion, that's destined. You did not ask that to be a Hindu or Christian. So you were born in that. Maybe that is your soul plan, and it's being said that soul plan is being already planned by the Atma before taking the birth. That's another theory, but that's another belief. But when we are having these placements, yes, so the person may start questioning, because initially they may have to go through hardships, tough timings, and then they start questioning their own religion, and their belief may get stuck here. And so that is a possibility with the 9th house Saturn. Here I'll give a little suggestion that okay, that's fine to question, but this belief is wrong. You should ask questions, you should be curious, and it's the very beauty of our religion or culture that we are not stopped to ask questions. So when you go through with these difficult times, you should always search for your true spiritual path. I will not say go in superstitions or any blind faith. Understand your belief system or your religion deeply and follow it. Don't leave your spiritual path because you are getting the hardship in your life. So that's the 9th house Saturn we'll talk about. Now let's go to the another last house, that's the 12th house Saturn. Now with this, again 12th house is our foreign travel, it's expenditures, losses, hospitalization, it's also confinement, so much. Every house has thousands of significations. It is a I explain that in my all videos, that we have the positive polarity and negative polarity of each house of each planet. So that's what we are discussing here, the negative and the positive. So negative is delays, pain, whatnot, but the positive is be consistent, persistent, hardworking, and ethical. Don't do wrong at all, don't cheat, don't lie. These are the basic lessons for Saturn, so you have to be little mindful with that. Now 12th house is also a house of isolation, spiritual awakening, self-realization. And when Saturn sits here, might be you are misunderstood, might be people take you wrong, they don't understand you properly with these placements. But what is the learning behind this placement? One of the possibility of this placement is it shows the settlement abroad, because 12th house is also abroad, but it is the house where it takes you in isolation to find your spiritual path, to see the Saturn here will become your inner guide, and it will transform your loneliness into peace, and your worldly loss into spiritual gain. So when you understand that your worldly loss is a threshold point for your spiritual rise or your spiritual awakening, you will not cry on your losses. So you will start getting ready. You will readily accept that pressure which Saturn starts giving or building up in your life. So this is, we are going to stop here with all, we have covered all the houses. What is the closing point of this video now? So Saturn never denies, it tests you, and once you cleared that test, it gave you multifold of the same thing what you are looking for. Another thing with the Saturn placement, no matter where it is placed in your chart, so Saturn gives pressure. It asks you to keep going and undergo with that pressure. So because it wants you to make a master of whatever signification of that house represents. If first house is you, your personality; second house, your family, your finances; third house, your speech, your neighbors, your siblings, your courage. So that's how we have to go. It comes there to give you courage to be persistent, consistent, with integrity, with your ethics, and don't ever give up. Keep going, and then when you do this, you will become the master of your domain. So with that, I'll close my session. So Saturn does not punish, it purifies you. So don't afraid with Shani Dhaya, Shani Sadesati, anything is happening, don't worry about that. Just keep going. Thank you and bye. Please subscribe my channel and show a little love to my channel. Thank you. Bye.